It's no secret that what we do is dangerous. We are risk takers by nature, and sometimes those risks come at extreme costs. Fires do not discriminate between paid and volunteer. It is up to us to ascertain the knowledge, training, and experience to better make ourselves aware of the situations around us. This program is on VES, or now known as VEIS. This is a procedure done for search operations when the egress or ingress points have been blocked by fire and crews need to find another avenue to make entry for saving of potential victims. The fire service has been shaped by major events. To name a few, 9/11, the Worcester Fire, Brett Tarver incidents. These fires have either caused line-of-duty deaths or mass casualties for civilians that we've been sworn to protect. VES was first created by FD&Y Truck Company, First D Truck Company, to allow them to create their start their search operations from the exterior inwards if the interior attack crews were either delayed or blocked by heavy fire and smoke. Every fire in your response area has the potential for this type of search operation, whether it be a two-story wood frame residential structure where your first floor fire is blocking your egress to your stairs, interior stairs, garden-style apartments where either blocking fire from the first floor to the second floor, any of those entry points, or your commercial structures. Let's not forget that this is one of the most dangerous search operations we can do. We're not only putting ourselves in a uncontrolled environment, we are searching ahead of the hose, and that's where the I in VEIS for isolate becomes very, very, very important. So again, any operation that this VES could be utilized is even responding to your single-family wood frame dwelling structures, whether it be two-story, three-story. You have an interior fire on your first floor that's cutting off your egress to the stairwell, heavy fire. You may utilize this to find access to your other portions of the structure that may have potential areas for viable victims. Other examples would be garden-style apartments or garden-style hotels, for that matter, where it's an open courtyard. You have a first floor fire, second floor fire, depending on which floor the fire is on, and is extended up. All entry points are on that exterior facet of the wall, so you may have to do entry points from the exterior backside of the structure. Everybody's construction is different. You need to know your building construction, because the way the fire is going to react to it and the way that potential viable victims, the structural assessment of for potential viable victims is always going to be a huge factor in making your decision of your entry point. Even if you're part of a very small department responding to a farming community, this operation can apply to any structure, whether it's your single-family dwelling, single-story family dwelling. Anytime that the fire is cutting off your egress points or potential areas for potential victims, this can be applicable. You don't need always to be on a second story. It can be just a matter of you finding another way to access those potential viable victim areas. And the nice thing about this operation, it doesn't require any specialized equipment. You can pretty much do it with everything you already have on your rig. So some aspects that need to be accomplished when performing this operation. First due officer needs to do a 360 of the structure. This way he can basically create that game plan of what the structure is presenting to himself, as well as the potential for viable victims. This is going to allow you to create that risk factor. We operate on a world of risks, risk versus benefit. We risk a lot to save a lot, risk a little to save a little. Once VES has been determined, you need to announce that over the air so that all incoming units are aware of the operation you're going to be doing, as well as the commanding officer that's en route, if he's not already on scene. You do this because this is a dangerous operation, and once this has been determined, other factors have not been put into play. When we go into a rescue mode for such as this, as it could perform VES, we are usually operating without the hose line in effect. This is definitely a very high risk factor because we are risking a lot to save that potential victim that is, whether we had that bystander that said, yes, my child's in that second floor bedroom there, or my husband, my grandmother, my mother is in that second floor. We are risking a lot to save that life. So now that we've obtained the information, we've done our 360, the bystander has told us that we have a victim. I'm going to look at my structure and what my fire is presenting. If the fire is blocking my ingress to the stairwell, interior stairwell, and I'm unable to get to those victims, then VES is going to be an excellent component for me to utilize. So some of the equipment you're going to need full PPE. That's going to include your helmet, gloves, hood, full turnouts, fire boots, SCBA, mask, and being on air. We should have a forcible entry tool, whether it be an axe, a Halligan, a hook, whatever. Not only for this operation should we have this, but anytime we're gaining entry into a burning structure. This is our safety factor for if we get ourselves in trouble, we should have a tool to help us gain egress out of the structure. Another tool that is very beneficial for you for any search operations is the thermal imager, or TI. Granted, these are usually expensive tools. Some departments have SOPs, but the officer is always the one maintaining that or carrying that device. But this tool itself can speed up the process, make it more efficient and safer for your firefighters operating. We're going to utilize 1 to 2 ladders for this operation. It's going to dependent on the size of the structure itself and or the potential number of victims. First ladder should always be placed below the sill for ease of ingress or egress into the structure. The second should be placed to the side, just in case the extrication of those victims, you need additional help. A third firefighter can come up and aid in the extrication of those victims. We're always going to operate in a minimum of 2 firefighters. We always do operate in pairs. We never do on solo operations unless we are within verbal contact of at least verbal communication with each other. So minimum of 2 firefighters for this operation at all times. So let's get into operation. As we stated before, all the equipment can be taken from the rig that you have now, whether it be an engine or a truck. We're going to grab our ladders. First ladder should be set forcibly into the windows if you're able to. Regarding the structure itself, sometimes they have fascia that extends out and you're not able to make contact with the windows. If you are able to make contact with the windows, forcibly bang the ladder against the windows to initially break that glass. This is going to start some type of ventilation, so we do have to make this kind of a speedy operation, because what are we doing? Once we've opened that structure, now we're creating another path for that heated air and gases to escape. We're going to set the ladder below the windowsill. This will aid in egress and ingress into the structure. First firefighters can climb to the top of the ladder, start clearing the glass, clearing the window components, and the blinds or drapes that are part of that window ensemble. We don't want any hang-up points. Once he's done that, he's going to sweep the floor just inside the structure. He's going to be sweeping for potential victims that may be there to try to come to the window, but were overcome by smoke. And then we're going to sound that floor, because especially if this is a second floor and the first floor flyer, we want to ensure that that floor is there before we take 1 foot into that structure. He will then gain access into the structure, begin his search, hastily doing a search, but making his way to the doorway. The door is the key. We want to shut that door. What does that do? That isolates that room and makes a more tenable space. The firefighter below is going to move to the top of this ladder and therefore become the anchor point, standing in verbal communication with that interior firefighter as he's searching. That does 2 things for him. If it's a completely blackened out, heavy smoke, very low visibility, with him speaking to that interior fire, saying, "How you doing? How you doing?" That gives that interior firefighter an anchor, or not an anchor, a point of reference of where his exit is. If the world turns brown and the conditions start getting worse, you start feeling instability in the floor, high heat coming up, the door starting to burn through, what have you, and you know you have to get out, at least you know exactly where he is at. And that gives you a B reference or point of reference where to exit. As we continue our search, we're going to make sure we hit everything. Our floors are underneath our beds, on our beds, closets, depending on what we find in the room, what it tells us, if we're in a child's room, an adult's room, if it's just another room, an office, what have you, is going to determine how we're going to search that. Search it completely, exit the structure. Once we've completed our search, we're going to communicate with command saying, hey, we found nothing, we are exiting the structure. Therefore, they know that's one less company that they have to keep track of. And if you move on to the next room to complete another VES, then you are going to also relay that information to command. If during this operation you do have a tick, the best place I would recommend for that tick is that second firefighter as your anchor, viewing the room and basically leading the searcher to places. It's a lot easier to search with both hands versus trying to hold a camera and look where you're going, and then having that than it is with having that firefighter at the anchor point outside the window, viewing inside, telling you exactly what direction you should be going.
Nice.
In addition, for that second firefighter who's acting as the anchor, he should not gain entry unless ultimately needed. And prior to him gaining entry, you should really have an additional firefighter making his way to that ladder, so you can basically leapfrog up and that third firefighter bumps to the anchor point. Once that second firefighter gains entry into the structure and is aiding the primary firefighter, and whether it be an extrication of that victim, aiding him to extricate him to the window so they can actually extricate that victim out of the structure, you always need that anchor point. That's a safety factor, and I couldn't stress that anymore. So especially with some of our departments that are man lean or manpower lean, it may be a single company or a single team that's doing multiple VEISs. So in the relation of this, to help conserve energy and share the workload for your firefighters, as you transition from one entry point to the other, the primary firefighter and the anchor should alternate positions. This will enable help with air consumption and workload efficiency. So let's put it all together. The following video is from Colorado Springs, our brothers and sisters responding to an apartment fire in a garden-style apartment. Truck 8 responds and does multiple VESs, and the video will show and put emphasis on the use of this operation.
Engine 8 responding, 1926. District 2 responding, 1926. Truck 8 responding. And Engine 7 responding. All companies responding. We got several calls on this for a structure fire at 2830 Airport Road, apartment 217. We got another caller stating 2 or 3 apartments are on fire on the bottom and top level. I have a total of 4 calls now on this. 7 received.
That car right there, Douglas. Pull up a little bit. Pull up a little bit.
1926. All companies from dispatch be advised we may have a party in number 116, apartment 116, that may possibly still be inside. This will be the downstairs apartment.
Copy, Engine 8 on scene. 2-story wood frame, multifamily.
What unit
I've got
did they call
heavy
the
smoking
trap
fire
in?
showing. Start me a second alarm.
What unit
Truck
did they
8,
call
I'm
the
going to need you
trap
to come in
in?
and let's discuss that. Engine 7, upon your arrival, I'm going to need you to bring the line in. I don't want to block this entranceway into here.
Engine 8, minus 2.
That's probably good, Rick, because of the line.
Communication between the anchor and the primary firefighter doing the search becomes most prevalent here. We can see it's extremely smoky environment, and visibility is at a 0. With the verbalization between, or communication between both firefighters, chances of being lost or
7-4 coming in.
disoriented is
Dispatch, start me a
greatly
third alarm. I got
decreased.
a second apartment complex starting on fire.
Copy, third alarm, 1929.
District 2, come in.
District 2, go ahead.
Chief, if you can meet me in the center of the complex, you're not going to be able to see a whole lot from out
We
there.
might need to VES
Like
that
I
back
said, I've
side.
got, it looks like about 8 units so far. I've got smoke that's going into probably about another 10. And I've got another apartment starting on fire now.
Jamie, we may consider VES on the back side.
Okay, you and Rick will take care of that.
Yeah, we know. Jamie, take a look at that roof too, the adjoining. Rick, we may consider ladder rescues right there. You got 6 units cut off. So, it's, they're yellow heap of crap. All the, yeah, 16. You know if anyone's inside? I'm just gonna take a peek. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a look. Rick, you might ask her about the roof. It's going through the attic.
Information is transmitted to command stating that first VES has been done
Rick,
and moving on to second windows. This keeping
what do you think
your
about
command
a couple
notified of
searches on these
operations
back
being
rooms?
performed.
If we can get the door closed. She was just telling us. Okay, this has got the most fire. These ones right here. You gonna come up on the tip while I go in?
So since they're performing multiple VEISs, team switches positions. Second firefighter becomes anchor, anchor becomes primary surgeon. First floor is able to be visualized and inspected. This is can be useful not only in your multi-story structures, but also your single-family dwellings as well.
break this. Here, my knee. Let me take this out. Okay. The next window? Let's just slide it, huh? You want to do this one? You want this hook? You want, okay. You want the hook? It's a very small room. Irons from ladders 8. Truck 8 irons from ladders 8.
Donning a full PPE prior to entry into the structure is a priority. As you can see here, he's donning and putting on his mask for to be breathing air while entering.
Irons from ladders. We've done VES on the 2 top floor apartments. Just the single rooms by the window, and they're clear. We're moving to the most northern apartment right now to search it. How you doing, Rick? Got that hook?
And clearing of all glass and window components is now being
I'll take
initiated.
it from you. All right. Okay, Rick. Come on.
He's banging the ladders forcibly to the windows to start initiating breaking of glass.
Next one, Rick.
So the plan is communicated that VES is a viable option for this type of fire. Operations are now being initiated. So as you can see, we have heavy fire showing on both first floor and second floor of the garden style apartments, cutting off egress to and ingress to the entryways of the apartments.
Fire department! I bet the fire door is open.
The potential for this tactic to be utilized is very high. So therefore, you should make this a high priority in your training. Training is key. You should always train as if your life depends on it, because it does. Every year, we lose at least 100 firefighters, and it would be a huge loss to lose another.